Hello everyone, this is part 2 of What If Naruto Chose Hinata, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Hey Anko, Naruto said as he and Hinata walked up to Anko and adored less Gaara. Anko turned to face the two and smile as the Gaara just turned his head with his arms still folded. Oh, hey, Anko said with a smile. You guys ready to have some fun? She asked. Gaara remained silent as he finally turned fully toward them still with his arms folded as usual. Yeah, it's going to be great, replied Naruto excitedly while Hinata stood with a smile. I really can't wait for the tunnel ride to open. I wonder who I am going to end up with, Naruto said with a fist in the air from his excitement. Hinata blushed and smiled at her date and imagined what the ride would be like herself. Why yeah, me too. Hinata continued to smile, then looked at Anko, then to Gaara. Hey Gaara, why you going on the tunnel too? She asked the Kazekage. Gaara looked at Hinata then replied, no. It's pointless. I am only here to win the bet. Nothing more. Anko placed her hand on her hip and gave a smirk hearing Gaara's remark. HMPH, you're way in over your head, Gaara. I've been to this place when I was a little girl. Believe me, this place will definitely crack a smile on that face of yours, she said looking at him with her confident smirk. Gaara simply shrugged. HMPH, we'll see about that. Naruto and Hinata simply smiled on at the two as the long line into the park began to move. Finally, shouted Naruto as they got closer to the entrance gates. I thought the line would never move. Yeah, it was always like this when I used to come here, replied Anko. I even helped Orochimaru make his haunted house. Of course, I'm not sure if they will be opening that, though. Why not? Asked Hinata. Anko turned her face toward Hinata, because Orochimaru is a very dangerous villain to Konoha and he could have done anything to it that may be dangerous to anyone who goes in. We can't trust him. Matter of fact, I'm surprised they haven't ordered for demolition on it, she said turning her head to look forward at the entrance gates. I bet that haunted house isn't scary at all, said Gaara still looking forward, his face still deprived of a smile. TSK. You're going down Gaara. Prepare to be my S for a week, Anko said with a sly smirk. Let's get this over with, he said moving on with the line as they finally reached the entrance and went inside. Naruto's eye filled with excitement as the loud roars of the roller coasters, the melodies and music of the gaming booths, the smell of French fries and funnel cakes, and the screams of Konoha's children having fun on thrill rides. Well you guys, me and Gaara are going this way, Anko said to them while pointing to the roller coaster. We'll see ya later, she said walking in that direction afterwards. Gaara nodded to Naruto in farewell then turned around and walked alongside Anko with his hands never unfolding and face never showing a sign of enjoyment. Naruto smiled then turned his attention to Hinata. Okay Hinata, which ride should we go on first? He asked her. How about the bumper cars? She asked him with her hands against her mouth from her shyness. Okay, let's go, shouted Naruto in an explosion of excitement as he grabbed Hinata's hand and dragged her over to the short line of the bumper cars. Hinata blushed deeply from Naruto grabbing her hand and dragging her to the bumper car attraction. The wait for the bumper cars wasn't long as Naruto and Hinata entered into the bumping area and got into their own bumper car. Naruto looked around and smiled at Hinata who was just getting into a blue car. Suddenly, a voice sounded into the air. Alright, make sure your seats are fastened. It's time for some bumper cars extreme, shouted the announcer of the ride from the microphone's intercom. Oh, this is Tsunade's ride, he said starting to freak out after quickly remembering what Kakashi said about it. Alright people, are you ready? Go. And the bumper cars began. Everyone began to bump into one another as a melody played softly. Naruto started as well as he bumped into Konohamaru's car. HMPH, this isn't so bad. I don't know why I was so scared, he said with a smirk until suddenly, the announcer came back on the PA. That's enough of the kid stuff. Time to turn it up to the extreme, said the announcer who then reached over and flipped up a lever that made a light flash red saying, Extreme. Time. Just then, all the bumper cars began to transform, having jet boosters appear on the back of the cars. Naruto pressed on the gas lightly and was sent flying 10x faster than he was going. Barely being able to breathe from the extreme speed, Naruto's car continued on straight as another car began to drive alongside his. Naruto turned and saw Kakashi driving easily at that incredible speed. "Hey Kakashi-sensei, what are you doing here?" asked Naruto, trying to breathe and talk at the same time. "Just having some fun, oh, and you might want to turn, you're heading straight for the wall," Kakashi said as he turned off to the side and bumped Asuma. Naruto placed his hands on the steering wheel and tried to turn but to no avail. His steering wheel had jammed and wouldn't turn. "Oh no, this stupid wheel won't turn," he said to himself as he got closer to the wall. Naruto started to scream out loud as he was about to crash, until. Thank you for riding bumper cars to the extreme. Naruto's car had just stopped in enough time to just harmlessly tap the wall. Phew, that was a close one, he said as he wiped off some sweat and jumped out his bumper car and headed toward the exit. Once out, he met back up with Hinata, who was already out sitting on a bench waiting for him. "Naruto-kun, why you alright? I saw you were about to hit the wall," she said looking at him. Naruto smiled and gave a thumbs up. "Yeah, I had it all under control," he lied as he grinned to her. "So what's next?" Hinata gave a shy smile and looked around. Well, let's do something. You want to do now?" she replied. Okay. How about a calm ride this time? Like Naruto looked around for a calmer ride and finally spotted one. "The Ferris wheel. Let's go on the Ferris wheel," suggested Naruto. Hinata gave a smile and nodded to Naruto in agreement. The Ferris wheel began to fill up fast with people as Naruto and Hinata got into one of the Ferris wheel carts. After being filled with people, the ride started to move slowly, sending Naruto and Hinata's cart upward slowly then downward. The ride continued on at a normal slow pace. Hinata sat looking on at the high view of Konoha as Naruto sat on the other side of the cart looking in the other direction, then looked at Hinata. "Wow, Hinata looks really beautiful today," Naruto thought to himself. "Hey, Hinata," said Naruto to get her attention. Hinata turned her gaze from the high view of the land to Naruto. "Why yeah, Naruto-kun." Naruto looking into her eyes, suddenly starting to remember times when they were together and the time when Sakura told Naruto that Hinata always watches him in secrecy. "Well, can I sit on that side with you?" he asked her with a sincere smile as he was still looking into her eyes. Hinata blushed a deep red and turned her face quickly to the side and looked downward. Why yeah, she replied nervously. Naruto smiled and got up from his side and sat down next to Hinata. Hinata's blush was now uncontrollably deep as she felt him sit down next to her. She slowly turned her head back over facing Naruto, who was looking out at the ground from the other way. She smiled and slowly began to turn the other way before suddenly. "Hinata," said Naruto, who was again looking at her and sitting close to her. Hinata looked at Naruto with wide open eyes from the shock and moved her hand up to her chin and lips from her extreme shyness. "Why yes, Naruto-kun." Meanwhile, in the shadow of a big tree, Sasuke and Orochimaru watched on as everyone in Konoha was having fun. "It's time," said Orochimaru with a smirk. I'll get it with no problem. "There is no need to send them in," said Sasuke emotionless. "Patience Sasuke, you will get your chance," Orochimaru ensured him as 5 shadowy figures appeared behind them. "Besides, I've resurrected these guys just for this. But, I guess it can't be helped. You may go in with them if you please." "Understood," said Sasuke as he disappeared along with the shadowy figures, leaving an evil smirking Orochimaru. Naruto smiled, not saying a word. Seeing this, Hinata's blush began to flare badly now. She wanted to turn away but at the same time she didn't. "I just wanted to say that I'm glad we came together." Naruto jumped back to in shock. "What was that?" he shouted as he looked around, then suddenly it began to shake again, this time sounding as if something broke. Hinata looked downward and saw what was causing the quakes. "Naruto-kun, look," she said to him. Naruto went to where she was and looked down. "What the?" yelled a surprised Naruto as he saw Jirobo of the Sound 4 punching the leg beam of the Ferris wheel. "It's that guy from the Sound 4. I thought Chuji said he K him, he said to Hinata. Jirobo continued to punch the beams holding up the Ferris wheel when suddenly Tayuya walked up behind him. You fatter. We are not here to break things. We are here for the destiny scroll. Tayuya said to him. HMPH. Your mouth is as foul as ever, Tayuya. I always wanted to terrorize these many people at one time, but I guess you were right this time. Let me just get in one last punch, he said to her as he pulled back for a haymaker and punched hard onto the Ferris wheel, breaking the leg of it, then left with Tayuya to find the scroll. That bastard is going to K everyone on this ride, yelled Naruto as the Ferris wheel began to sway deep to the side. We're going to crash into the ground, said Hinata. Hinata, how many are on this wheel? Asked Naruto. I'll check, said Hinata, Byakugan. She said, activating her Byakugan eyes. This is bad. There's a lot of younger kids on here. There are also a couple of older kids like us. Okay, you save everyone on this side and I'll save everyone on the other side, he said to her. Hinata agreed and jumped over to the next car, as did Naruto to the others. Both of them, using the wall walking ability, got the inexperienced others and ran them down to the ground as fast as they could with the help of a couple other experienced Chunins. Naruto came running down the Ferris wheel with two young Genins under his arm and one holding onto him from his neck. Once on the ground, Naruto placed him down and turned to Hinata. That's all of said Naruto. Suddenly, the other leg of the Ferris wheel snapped from the pressure of no support of the other leg and began to fall in the direction of everyone panicking below. Everyone started to scream, seeing the giant attraction about to fall on them. Thinking fast, Naruto began to pound his open right hand palm with his left hand, gathering up chakra into a small sphere. Once he was ready, he quickly jumped up toward the falling Ferris wheel and thrusted his chakra sphere on it. Rasengan, he shouted out. The force from the Rasengan shot the Ferris wheel the other way, falling onto the water on the other side. Naruto landed back on the ground and looked back at everyone running and panicking. Orochimaru is behind this, he's after the destiny scroll, Naruto said to Hinata as he looked at her when suddenly, another surprise came walking up to them. If it isn't Naruto, came the voice. Naruto's surprise heightened as he turned and saw Sasuke standing in front of him. Hinata looked over at the merry-go-round and saw Jirobo about to S it up. She quickly jumped over and landed in front of him and positioned herself into the gentle fist stance, prepared to fight him. Sasuke, what are you doing here? Naruto shouted at him. Sasuke gave a smirk. HMPH, the others are going around looking for it, but I know you know where it is. Tell me, he said to Naruto in a wry manner. Even if I did know where it was, I wouldn't tell you, Naruto shouted at him, getting ready to fight him. Sasuke stood silent, looking on at Naruto. Then I will K you like I should have done before. This time I won't show you mercy, Sasuke said with a smirk as he suddenly disappeared. Naruto gave a smirk and put his hand out and suddenly caught Sasuke's fist. That speed of yours won't work on me this time, Sasuke, said Naruto with a smile. Kakashi has been giving me special training just for this moment, he said, managing to keep Sasuke's fist in his hand. Sasuke's smirk never faded. I see you have gotten stronger. This will be interesting, he said, then saw Naruto pull back his other hand into a fist, then thrusted it forward at Sasuke. Sasuke easily caught the fist with his open hand and looked at Naruto. Both of them began to struggle against each other. Meanwhile, Sakura joined Hinata in fighting against Jirobo. Sakura's punch met with a transformed Curse Seal level 2 Jirobo. After the clash, Sakura and Jirobe threw both hands out and placed their fingers between one another and began to push at each other in a struggle of strength. Now Hinata, shouted Sakura, holding his hands in restraint in the struggle tug of war of strength. Right, replied Hinata as she slid between the two and began to strike Jirobo's tenketsu, then pulled back both palms. Jirobo, now without chakra and damaged organs near the heart, fell backwards onto the ground again. Yes, shouted Sakura as her and Hinata gave a high five to one another for the teamwork, then ran over to help Kiba and Ino fight a transformed Sakin and Akon. In the fight, Ino turned to see Naruto fighting Sasuke. Sasuke, this is my chance to bring him back to Konoha, she thought as she ran toward the two ex-friends' tug-of-war struggle. She then put out her hands as she was about to perform the mind transfer jutsu. If I do the mind disturbance technique, there is a good chance that his dramatic increased strength will make it ineffective. It's better if I just take over his body until the Anbu restrains him. Then I'll just undo the jutsu and he'll be caught. I just hope Naruto can hold him still. Ino thought. On the other side of the park, Gaara and Anko faced off against Kimimaro, Neji, Tenten, and Guy faced off against Kidomaru, and finally Shikamaru, Temari, and Asuma faced off against Tayuya. Alright, now, Shintention no Jutsu, said Ino as she shot out her soul towards Sasuke. Sensing something coming, Sasuke quickly dodged off to the right and pushed Naruto into the path of the mind transfer jutsu. Ino gave out a gasp before her body fell to the floor lifeless. Sakura, seeing Ino fall to the ground after using her jutsu, ran over to her body and kneeled down to lift up Ino's head. Once the soul hit Naruto, he stammered some before standing back up with Ino in control of his body. Sakura looked on at Sasuke to see if the jutsu worked, but to her horror, she saw that the person who was hit with her jutsu was not Sasuke, but Naruto instead. Oh no, Ino, if she is in Naruto's mind. Sakura gasped as she realized that Ino was in danger. In the corridors of Naruto's mind, Ino wakes up sitting on the ground next to an unconscious Naruto. Naruto, Ino said as she saw him laying there unconscious. Where am I? Is this Naruto's mind? She said to herself, getting up on her feet and looking around. Suddenly, she began to hear growls coming from down the closest hallway. What is that? She thought as she began to walk down the biggest hallway. Upon reaching the end of the hallway, she came upon a giant cage with a piece of paper on it that reads, "Seal," on it. Seal. What is in there? She asked as she walked closer to it. Coo. Who are you? Came a voice from the cage. Ino gasped, then looked closer into the cage but didn't see anything. Coo, walk closer to the cage, said the voice to Ino. Ino, through curiosity, began to walk closer, then stopped after suddenly the growls got louder and more ferocious. Hearing the loud screams of Ino, Naruto awakened and looked around, then heard the screams once more. Oh no, Ino, Naruto yelled. Damn fox, let her go, yelled Naruto as he pulled harder on her arm. Sasuke stood there looking on at Naruto, Ino, as the body just stood there, then suddenly started to grasp Naruto's head and yelling loudly in horror. Sakura looked on at the screaming Naruto body in horror and yelled for Ino to undo the jutsu. Naruto's mind. Ino, undo the mind jutsu. Hurry, he yelled to her. Ino struggled and quickly undid the jutsu. Back in her body, Ino was in shock and was shaking badly in Sakura's arms. Ino, are you alright? Ino shook her head slightly and fainted. Naruto stood a little confused, then regained his posture. Sasuke looked at Naruto, then suddenly sensed that all the resurrected Sound 5 have been K and that he was surrounded by all the Chunins and Junins. Knowing that he had no chance to fight them all himself, he disappeared and fled the scene after looking back at Sakura. Kakashi kneeled down next to Sakura. Sorry I was too late. What happened to Ino? Sai walked up behind Kakashi and kneeled down by him. She was attacked mentally. She should be alright, just needs some rest, she said to them. Well, all the Sound 5 have been taken care of. There's still Sasuke and Orochimaru out there, so we have dispatched some Anbu units to track them down if they're nearby still. Naruto jumped down from the platform he was on and walked over to Kakashi, Sakura and Sai. What a shame, said Sai as he stood next to Kakashi and Sakura. Everyone's fun was ruined thanks to Orochimaru. Yeah, well, most of the Junins had suspected something was going to happen. That destiny scroll is too important to Orochimaru's plans for him to just pass it up, replied Kakashi, reading his book and standing up against a tree. So I guess the Konoha Park is over now, huh? Asked Sakura. Not necessarily, Kakashi answered. In fact, it should be up and running again in no time. In enough time for the tunnel? Asked Naruto, sitting down on the ground. You guys'll have 1 hour before the tunnel opens. So about 9 o'clock will be the reopening time. Kakashi answered again. Naruto crossed his arms and thought to himself. Well, I'm pretty sure we can find something to do until that time. I'll gotta go explain things to Hinata so she'll know, said Naruto, getting up and dusting himself off. Kakashi nodded, as did Sai and Sakura. Well, I guess that leaves me to tell the rest of the Chunins about this then, Kakashi said as he closed his book and disappeared with Sai. Sakura stood there looking at the ground, then looked at Naruto. I'll go help them with that, Sakura said, then disappeared also. Naruto nodded and looked to see if he could spot out Hinata but didn't see her. Naruto slowly coasted the grounds, thinking and looking at the same time. He hummed to himself. He looked up slowly and gave out a sigh of boredom, then looked down to check his watch, which showed around 8:25. Naruto placed his arm back down to his side and looked around once more when he suddenly spotted Neji and Tenten sitting on a bench outside the department store. Naruto walked up to them with a smile. Hey Neji, Tenten, what are you two doing? Tenten smiled at Naruto. Nothing really. Just talking about the tunnel ride. She faced Neji with a smile, then looked back at Naruto. It's so exciting to think about. I hope I see Neji in the moonlight at the end. It's so romantic, Tenten said, then giggled playfully. Naruto smiled at Tenten, then looked at Neji, whom was slightly blushing after hearing Tenten. Ah, Neji's blushing. I thought I'd never see that day. Naruto teased him and grinned big at the silent Hyuga. Well, tonight we'll finally know if we are meant to be, she said, blushing herself. She looked over at the Junin Hyuga and grabbed his hand softly. Naruto couldn't help but smile at the two lovebirds. I hope you guys end up for each other, he said, placing his hands behind his head in a carefree manner. Tenten grinned and nodded at Naruto, then snuggled closer to Neji, who looked at Naruto with concern. Neji finally spoke up. Who do you want to end up with? Naruto, Neji asked with a straight face. Naruto's eyes widened, then returned to normal as he looked off to the side. Well, I really like Hinata, but I think I like Sakura-chan too, Naruto said in a sad low voice. Who knows, you might end up with both, said a voice from behind Naruto. Naruto turned to see a laughing Kiba walk up behind him. Kiba, what are you doing here? Where's Ino? Naruto asked, looking at the grinning Kiba. Is she feeling better? Oh, yeah, she's all right now. She went inside the department store, he said, dying down his grinning. I see, he said to Kiba, then turned to Neji. Hey, have you seen Hinata? He asked. Ah, she was in the park alone last time I saw her. She looked kinda sad by the way, said Kiba. I tried talking to her but it seemed like an emotional problem and thought it would be best if she had some alone time. Naruto turned toward the forest and ran off as fast as he could without saying a word to Neji, Tenten or Kiba. Tenten turned to Neji, whose face showed that he knew something. Neji. Kiba looked at Neji as well, waiting for any answer to Hinata's sudden problems that he may know of. Neji turned to Tenten and answered the unasked question. When everyone left the park after the attack from the sound, Hinata went home and was confronted by Hiashi. Neji's eyes became narrower as he continued on with the explanation. At Orochimaru's lair. In the depths of his lair, Orochimaru and Sasuke engage in conversation as Kabuto listened. That was a complete waste of time. We accomplished nothing. I guess your plans weren't as perfect as you thought, said Sasuke to Orochimaru. Kabuto leaned his face close to Sasuke's ear. You really should watch that mouth of yours. Show some respect to Orochimaru-sama. Orochimaru smiled, then began to chuckle evilly. On the contrary, Sasuke. Everything went exactly how I wanted it to go. Orochimaru said with a smirk. So you sacrificed meaningless lives to resurrect the Sound Five just to have them off again. We did not retrieve the Destiny Scroll. Nothing was accomplished, Sasuke said, crossing his arms. Orochimaru grinned and smirked evilly still. He rose to his feet and began to walk over to an altar. Once there, he looked down and began to laugh again evilly. Sasuke, come. See for yourself. Sasuke snickered and walked over to the altar and looked down. Suddenly, Sasuke's eyes widened in surprise at the two items that lay there on the altar. But, how? He said, surprised at what he sees. Orochimaru began to laugh evilly once again as Kabuto pushed up his glasses. HMPH, you have a lot to learn, Sasuke-kun. Orochimaru-sama is brilliant when it comes to tricking people, Kabuto said, chuckling. At the park, Hinata sat on a swing, swaying back and forth slowly while looking downward, thinking. Naruto-kun. I'm sorry, she said to herself lightly. Sorry about what? Came a voice from behind Hinata. Surprised, Hinata turned her head to see Naruto smiling down at her while he was holding onto the chains of her swing. Hinata looked back into Naruto's eyes, then slowly turned back around looking at the ground. Naruto's smile faded as he sat on the swing next to hers and looked over to her sad face. Hinata. Naruto-kun. I cannot ride the tunnel of destiny, she said with eyes filled with tears. Naruto continued to look at her. What? Why not? Is it that you don't like me? Asked Naruto with a sad expression. It's not that. And Naruto-kun, it's just that. Hinata's speech went into a short hesitant pause, but she pressed on to complete her statement. My father. Naruto's eye twitched slightly. Your father. What about him? Hinata went on to explain. He doesn't approve of us. He doesn't like the chance of us ending up together, she said slowly and still not looking at him. Naruto rose from his swing and walked in front of Hinata, then kneeled down to face her. Hinata turned her face from Naruto to hide her tears from him. Naruto moved his hands and placed them on each of Hinata's cheeks, softly turning her face to face his. Hinata's tear-felt eyes widened and she began to blush seeing Naruto holding her face so soft and lovingly. Naruto looked into her eyes, not saying anything. Hinata returned the gaze, still blushing. Hinata, Naruto said softly, never breaking eye contact. Hinata looked back into his eyes. Naruto's lips began to curve upward into a soft smile. You should know. Hinata, you're my angel. Hinata's eyes shot wide from hearing this and began to blush widely, but remained unmoved as she looking into his loving eyes. En Naruto-kun. Naruto grinned to her, then took his hands from her face and placed them back to his sides. He stared into her eyes silently with a smile. Hinata's eyes began to swell with tears, then suddenly she lunged out at Naruto, tackling him in a hug on the ground. She began to cry on his chest as she embraced him closely and tightly as if she was releasing all of her sadness at once. Naruto smiled warmly and wrapped his arms around her as she cried and hugged him tightly. Let it out, Hinata. I'm here. I'll always be here for you, cry as much as you need, he said, smiling and caressing her soothingly. Hinata continued to cry on Naruto as they embraced each other lovingly on the ground of the park under the bright stars of the night. After a while, Hinata's crying came to a stop. Naruto looked down at her and smiled warmly as he moved his finger to playfully tassel her hair softly as she drifted off to sleep in his arms. For that instant, to Hinata, she was in paradise. She felt safe in the arms of Naruto and felt calm under the night sky as if she had escaped the world and her troubles. In his arms, she felt right, she finally felt truly happy. Naruto looked back up into the night sky feeling something in the pit of his stomach. Is this what being truly happy feels like? He said with a smile. Hinata, you were always there for me, even when I didn't know it. You rooted for me when I fought someone on your team, you never laughed at me. You always trusted me, even when I was horribly wrong, you were there by me anyway, and for that Hinata. I love you, he said softly as he drifted off into a slumber. Naruto has truly found happiness. Naruto's eyes slowly began to open from him being asleep. Once fully awake, he noticed that Hinata was still embracing him and that she was still asleep. Naruto unwrapped his arm from Hinata and looked at his watch. 9:53. The park has been open for 53 minutes. He yelled. Hinata awakened and finally let go of Naruto as she yawned and wiped her eyes with her sleeve. Naruto looked from the watch and jumped up to his feet. Feel better? He asked Hinata with a smile. Hinata gave a smile back to Naruto and nodded. What time is it? Naruto answered, it's 9:54 now. We have to get to the park before the opening of the tunnel. He said, then bent over in front of Hinata. Here, get on. I'll carry you, he said with a smirk. I'll get us there in no time. Hinata smiled and climbed on, then placed her arms around his neck. All right, hold on, he said smirking, then began to run as fast as he could with her on his back. At the Konoha festival, Jiraiya walked up to the entrance of his tunnel and sat down waiting for his friend to arrive with the Destiny Scroll. He should be arriving sometime soon now, Jiraiya said sitting with his arms crossed. Suddenly, Anko and Gaara walked by Jiraiya. Hey Jiraiya, said Anko carelessly, who was slumped over in disappointment. Hey Anko, Gaara, so how's that bet going? He asked in curiosity. He's a tough one to crack, but I give you my word that he will be smiling soon. Anko said with a smirk. Gaara stood next to Anko still with an expressionless face and his arms still crossed. It's wrong to promise something you cannot do, Gaara said, closing his eyes. Anko frowned up in a goofy rage at Gaara. Jiraiya sat laughing at the two. What are you doing here by yourself anyway? Asked Anko to Jiraiya. Hey, you want to help me make Moody here laugh? Anko said, grinning. Gaara snickered. Hey, that was not part of the deal. No, that's okay, I'm waiting on my friend, Hiroshi, to arrive. He should be here now. It's. Jiraiya stopped as he checked his watch, 9:56 p.m. I'm here, my old friend, came a voice walking up. Jiraiya snickered then smiled. Hiroshi. You're late. That's not like you to be late for things, he said, giving his old friend a hug. I'm sorry. Hiroshi apologized. Oh, and here is the Destiny Scroll. It's all fixed up for use now, he said, handing over the Destiny Scroll to Jiraiya. Jiraiya took the Destiny Scroll and smiled. Great job. Are you staying for the grand opening of the tunnel? Asked Jiraiya. No, I have to be getting back home now, but there is one thing I want to see before leaving. Orochimaru's haunted house. Jiraiya's eyes shot open. Why? Just curious, he said, then started to chuckle a little before walking away toward the haunted house. Jiraiya looked on at his old friend thinking, but quickly shrugged it off. He checked his watch again, it's showing 9:58. Jiraiya smiled as he walked up on the platform and grabbed a microphone. A rather large crowd began to form around the entrance. Seeing this, Jiraiya began the opening speech. All right, people, it's finally time to open the famous Tunnel of Destined Love. I'm sure you've all heard of it. The crowd cheered out loud happily. Yeah. Jiraiya continued. Well, it's time to get things started. This is how it works. First, form 2 lines. One line with just the boys and the other just the girls. Second, enter the entrance doors. Inside will be pitch black. You will not be able to see anything. Oh, and just in case you think I haven't heard you guys talking about it, there will be no attempts of talking to whoever is next to you before the ride is over. This specific jutsu I've made prevents you from doing so until after your boat goes into the moonlight at the end. Oh, and one last thing, this jutsu also prevents people who's destined one, that is not going on the ride from coming in. So if you are stopped, then I am sorry. I cannot help that. So without further ado, let's begin. Everyone cheered happily and loudly as the people outside who were going to ride the tunnel began to prepare themselves. Jiraiya opened up the Destiny Scroll and began to do hand seals. After the completion of the hand seals, a blue force field-like wall appeared over the entrance doors. Jiraiya smiled as the Destiny limiter began to work, but then suddenly, a small purple aura shot from the scroll and into the air, then disappeared. Jiraiya looked up. What was that? That seems odd. He thought on for a while, but then shrugged it as just an addition Hiroshi had added to make it look cooler. Alright, now, all you have to do is step through the force field. There are Junins and Chunins inside to help you out from there. Have fun, he said last into the microphone, then jumped off the platform. Afterwards, all the people began to form a line to get into the entrance. Some people were allowed in and others were repelled by the Destiny limiter barrier. Hey Sakura, you wouldn't mind if I don't get on, would you? Asked Sai. These types of attractions aren't my thing. Sakura gave a smile to her fellow teammate. Sure. I'll see ya after the ride then, she said as she got in line, then looked around at everyone. Where is Naruto? She asked in her mind. Meanwhile, in a closer portion of the line, Shikamaru was being held by Temari. Why don't you want to go on? It'll be fun, said Temari. Ah, it's too troublesome, Shikamaru answered. Don't be so lazy, Temari snapped as she smirked at him afterwards. I guess it can't be helped, Shikamaru said after a deep breath. Suddenly, Naruto appeared with Hinata finally. See, I knew we would be here in time, he said, smiling at Hinata. Hinata nodded and smiled as she got off of his back and stood behind him in line. Sakura looked on, trying to find Naruto, and finally did after looking to the side of her. Wanting to talk to him, Sakura walked over to him and smiled. Naruto, where have you been? She asked. Naruto turned and smiled back at Sakura. Oh, I kinda got lost on the way here, he said, laughing then grinning. Sakura smiled back at Naruto, then grabbed his hand. Naruto looked down at this, then looked back up at Sakura. Naruto, can I talk to you alone for a moment? There's something I need to tell you, Sakura said sincerely while looking into his eyes. Naruto nodded to the pink-haired Kanoiki's request and walked over to a quiet place away from everyone in line. Naruto, I just wanted to say that, if by some chance we end up together. Sakura looked on at Naruto, trying to find the words to finish what she was saying to him. Naruto returned the look as he continued to listen to Sakura. If we are destined to be, that nothing would really change because Naruto remained quiet, still looking into her green eyes. Quote. I already love you, she said to him, not knowing what to say next. Naruto gave a smile as he looked down, then looked at Sakura once more. Sakura-chan, however this thing turns out, I'm glad you told me that. Thank you. Sakura-chan, he said, smiling, then he walked close and gave her a hug. Getting back in line, Naruto, Sakura and Hinata looked at the front of the line, seeing Shikamaru and Temari both getting past the force field limiter. Next, they saw Tenten and Neji get through. Good. They all got through, said Naruto with a happy face. We're next, said Hinata as they got closer and closer. Sakura gulped as she went to enter. She passed through the limiter. Cha, she said to herself. Next was Hinata. She stepped forward. She passed through the limiter as well. Lastly, Naruto gulped, then pressed on forward, stepping throughout the limiter as well. Yes, he shouted as they were all now in a dark room. In a chamber at the haunted house of Orochimaru. Hiroshi stood at an ancient-looking altar in the basement of the haunted house with a smile on his face. Everything is falling into place, he said with a grin. Now, it's only a matter of time. Suddenly, Sasuke appeared behind Hiroshi and walked up from behind him. Were you followed? Asked Hiroshi without turning around to face him. No, replied Sasuke as he gave Hiroshi a small package. Hiroshi gave an evil chuckle. Excellent. I have somewhere I need to be now, said Sasuke as he sighed and disappeared. Inside the entrance of the Tunnel of Destiny. Inside, each individual was taken to a separate cavern where they walked through another destiny barrier that placed the destined ones together. After the destiny barrier paired everyone off, they were taken to the boat and seated. Naruto was seated in a boat, as were all who entered. I can't see a thing, said Naruto as he felt the boat starting to coast off into the water. The boat drifted on slowly as a scene of tranquility began to be visible. Naruto looked forward as the spot of moonlight began to come closer and closer. He began to sweat. This is it, he said as the tip of the boat coasted into the moonlight. Almost there, he thought, then gulped in nervousness. The boat slowly made its way into the light and Naruto looked over to the side, his eyes widening. The silence suddenly seemed loud as his lips curved up, looking at the person in the eyes. Naruto-kun. Hinata smiled as she looked over and saw Naruto sitting next to her. I knew it would turn out this way, he said, smiling at Hinata as the boat docked. Naruto rose to his feet and grabbed Hinata's hand softly, leading her onto the boardwalk and back to the festival to spend the rest of that happy night together. Shortly after, Shikamaru emerged from the tunnel with Temari, and Neji walked out with a grinning Tenten hand in hand. Still coasting in the tunnel, Sakura began to wonder who was next to her. Her boat coasted into the moonlight, revealing nothing but an empty space. Sakura's eyes began to water as she did not see Naruto, or anyone for that matter. I'm alone, she said slowly as her boat docked to the boardwalk. With a sad expression, she lifted from the boat and onto the board, crying silently when suddenly, still annoying as ever I see, came an all too familiar voice to Sakura. Sakura gasped as suddenly a shadowy figure was visible in the night. What? She asked with tears in her eyes. Could it be? The tears began to form thick and ran down her cheeks. Sasuke, is that you? The shadowy figure remained quiet, then began to walk closer into plan view. Sakura's eyes widened as she finally saw him. Sasuke. Sakura, I'm sorry for what I've put you through. But I need to gain more power if I wish to kill my brother and avenge my family. Sasuke's statement was interrupted as Sakura ran up to him and embraced him in a loving hug. Sasuke, don't leave. Stay with me. Forget about revenge. Forget about your brother, please. I love you. If you have to leave, please just take me with you, she said as her grip on him got tighter. Sasuke stood looking down at the crying Sakura. I am an avenger. I'm sorry, Sakura. I have to leave. I don't want you to get mixed up with Orochimaru, he said, backing away from her. Sakura couldn't find the word to convince him to stay. She stood motionless looking down as Sasuke began to walk away. Quote. Sasuke. Sakura whispered as she continued to cry alone in the night. After a couple of lonely minutes of crying, Sakura walked the lonely path thinking about Sasuke. Her thinking suddenly came to a halt as a gust of wind blew by her. Stupid wind, she thought as she shielded herself from the wind, not knowing it was something more than just wind. The wind slowly began to s down and Sakura put her hands back down to her sides when she suddenly saw something that made her eyes shoot up in surprise. A big fluffy brown teddy bear sat on the ground with a note attached. Sakura leaned down to pick it up and read the note, which read, "Sakura, I promise I will return someday. Until then, I'll be thinking of you, Sasuke." Sakura's tears began to dry as a happy expression crossed her face. She embraced the teddy bear in her arms lovingly as if it was Sasuke himself and continued down the path thinking of him and cherishing her gift from him. It was almost closing time for the festival now. Neji and Tenten walked holding hands as the last-minute fireworks began to fire into the night sky. Shikamaru and Temari ended the day with one last ride on the biggest roller coaster in the park. Ino, Sai, Kiba, Shino, Chuji, Lee and Kankuro all spent their time together playing against each other in the booth games. Unknowingly to Thentrans guards that they all got in courtesy of Kankuro's fake dates. Kakashi spent his time reading his book and relaxing on a newly built Ferris wheel with Guy, who constantly challenged him to games once they got off the wheel. Asuma and Kurenai, who were actual dates, crashed against each other in a battle of Tsunade. Famous Bumper eventually lost the bet against Gaara. He did not laugh nor smile once since they got there, or so she thought. After being declared the winner of the bet, they separated for a moment so Gaara could use the bathroom. Once inside, his face started to crack and crumble, revealing a smiling Gaara underneath. Anko never found out that night that Gaara had used his sand to conceal his actual face. And finally, Naruto and a sleeping Hinata spent the rest of their night cuddling on a cruise transport boat ride under the stars and fireworks. Naruto looked behind himself and Hinata and saw Sakura smiling, looking up into the sky at the fireworks while hugging a big teddy bear. He slowly got on his feet, being so not to wake Hinata, and walked to the back to talk to Sakura. "Hey Sakura-chan. Cool bear. Did you win it?" Naruto asked her. Sakura smiled and embraced the bear tightly. "No, it was given to me as a present," she said, still smiling. "Who? Oh, and who did you end up with in that ride?" he asked her. Sakura took a glance down at Naruto and smiled. "Someone very special to me. I wish he was here," she said slowly, then looking back up at the fireworks, grinning happily, not wanting to tell Naruto that it was actually Sasuke. Naruto returned that smile to Sakura. "Well, wherever he is. I bet he wishes the same," he said as he had a feeling she was referring to Sasuke. Later that night, after the closing of the park, Jiraiya was contacted by 4 Anbu members. "Jiraiya-sama, we have some terrible news to tell you," an Anbu said to Jiraiya. Jiraiya gave a confused face. "Oh." Another Anbu member spoke up. "It's about your friend, Hiroshi. He was found not too long ago." Jiraiya's eyes shot open in suspense. "What?" One of the Anbu spoke up. "Upon performing an autopsy by the medical team, it has been speculated that he has been for more than 24 hours ago." "That can't be. I just saw him today at around 10 o'clock before the opening of my tunnel," Jiraiya said to the Anbu team. Quote, "And sir, that's not all. Upon finding his body, it has been noted that he had no face." Jiraiya became surprised and horrified. "This is bad. If that is true, then the man I saw today was not Hiroshi. It was Orochimaru's Lair. The man that looked like Hiroshi appeared in front of Kabuto and Sasuke with an evil smirk." "What part did that Sound 5 play? You brought them back just to kill him off again?" asked Sasuke, still a little confused. "I needed for Konoha to believe I didn't already possess the scroll, thus initiating an invasion for the sole purpose of those 5 looking for it. That alone mattered. Tsunade and Jiraiya think I didn't have it," he explained. "I see," said Sasuke. Sasuke looked on at the back of Hiroshi. What was the purple aura that came from the scroll after Jiraiya used the jutsu? He asked blankly. That was the cursed aura of my own personal embedded and hidden jutsu that is released when the destiny jutsu is completed. That curse of mine was needed for my plans of this place. This haunted house of mine will bring forth the destruction of Konoha." Sasuke folded his arms. "I see. So why was it so important that you secretly have Jiraiya do the jutsu? Why couldn't Kabuto or another one of your subordinates do it?" Hiroshi laughed evilly once more. It will only activate successfully when that jutsu is done by a person of cage level such as him, or myself. Seeing as the third took away my abilities to use my arms, I needed to trick Jiraiya into doing it for me without him knowing of my plan. I see. Did your cursed jutsu affect the tunnel's abilities then? Sasuke asked. HMPH. No, and I didn't want it to. That tunnel and what it can do does not concern my plans. It will work as if I had never did anything. All I needed was the curse to be released, and it was, said Hiroshi. Kabuto gave a smirk. You are truly brilliant. Now it's only a matter of time before the destruction of Konoha, said the man as he peeled off his face to reveal none other than Orochimaru. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.